Hi, everyone. I'm Kalila Reynolds, and welcome to another edition of Taking Stock Live. My pleasure being with you once again this and every Tuesday evening, joining us live on YouTube and Facebook. Let me know in the comments where you're joining us from this evening. I see a lot of people in the chat already letting us know what part of the country, what part of the world. I love to see all our international viewers, all our Caribbean viewers, and of course, the Yardies, the Jamaican people, Jamaican Massive, big up on ourselves. So it's going to be a different show tonight, and you probably noticed that from the thumbnail already. So come prepared with your questions. Also, we want to urge you, if you haven't done it yet, smash the like button. Hit that like button there on YouTube or Facebook, and head over to my website, KalilaReynolds.com/newsletter to sign up for the newsletter. We have lots of interesting and cool stuff coming for our newsletter subscribers. And those of you who are already subscribed, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about breaking news alerts, IPO alerts, and lots of interesting news and features. Yeah. So let's get this party started. Like I said, let me know in the chat where you're joining us from this evening. And here's a look at what's coming up in the show, followed by what's hot in business. Now, come on, let's get this money. We're doing things a little different. It's an all-analyst show with some new faces. First up, Dolla's IPO triggered the JSE's circuit breaker last week. But do you know how the rule works? We'll get a breakdown. Inflation dipped for the first time in 3 months, and overseas, U.S. housing rates are at an all-time high. We'll discuss. And then it's Ask the Analysts. What do you want to know about the market? Here's your chance to have your questions answered. But first, here's What's Hot, brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers, your best interest at heart.
Inflation finally slowed a bit in May. It was the first time in 3 months that the inflation rate for the previous 12 months, which is called point-to-point inflation, actually fell. According to the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, consumer prices were up 10.9% from May 2021 to May 2022. It was lower than April's year-over-year increase of 11.8%, but still outside of the Bank of Jamaica's target range of 4 to 6%. According to Statin, food prices rose almost 14%. Restaurant and accommodations jumped 29%, and transport was up 15%. May's inflation rate is the 10th consecutive month where inflation has been above the BOJ's target range. The central bank said last month that it expects inflation to peak in the range of 12 to 15% this summer before falling back to the target range by mid-2023. Sagicor Bank is now offering its credit card customers health and life insurance coverage through a partnership with Sagicor Life. According to the company, the Care Shield plan provides financial assistance in the event of hospitalization, a critical illness diagnosis, or untimely death of the cardholder. The monthly premium rates for critical illness and life insurance starts at $266 and $328 per month, with a maximum coverage of $2 million. Hospitalization benefits start at a minimum of $50,000 per day for 10 days, with a premium monthly payment of $2,322. The company said payments are accepted online with Sagicor Bank credit cards through the group's online payment portal, Sagicor Connect. During the open enrollment period, which ends on August 31, no medical evidence will be required, and all existing cardholders will be accepted once they meet the criteria. Puerto Rico last week announced that it will be suspending taxes on gasoline and diesel for 45 days amid the worldwide surge in petroleum prices. Puerto Rico, which is a U.S. territory, imposes a tax of 16 cents U.S. per gallon on gas and 4 cents U.S. per gallon on diesel. The country's governor said an additional $25 million will be added to the government's general fund to make up for the loss of revenue as a result of the temporary tax moratorium. Officials say they expect a gallon of gasoline in Puerto Rico to reach $6 in the coming months. Elon Musk is back in the news. But this time, the Tesla and SpaceX founder and his companies are being sued for $258 billion US. According to a report from Bloomberg, Musk, SpaceX, and Tesla are being sued over claims they are part of a racketeering scheme to back the cryptocurrency Dogecoin. Musk has regularly tweeted his support for the cryptocurrency, which usually results in a spike in its price as people flock to it. According to the complaint, Musk and his companies falsely and deceptively claimed that Dogecoin is a legitimate investment when it has no value. The complainant is asking for $86 billion in damages, plus triple damages of $172 billion, as well as an order blocking Musk and the companies from promoting Dogecoin and declaring that Dogecoin trading constitutes gambling under US and New York law. Musk is seemingly unbothered by the suit, tweeting on Sunday that he will continue to support the cryptocurrency. Cosmetics giant Revlon has filed for bankruptcy protection in the U.S. because of its crippling debt and mounting competition. The 90-year-old company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which is the most complex and usually the most expensive form of bankruptcy in the U.S. However, the company said the filing will allow it to strategically reorganize its finances while remaining operational. Revlon in recent years lost shelf space and sales to startups backed by celebrities such as Kylie Jenner's Kylie Cosmetics and Rihanna's Fenty Beauty. It has also been hit by supply issues worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic, resulting in product shortages, which were a major factor in tipping Revlon into bankruptcy. Analysts have said that the company is unlikely to resolve its issues in the near term. What's Hot was brought to you by Jamaica Money Market Brokers, your best interest at heart.
This segment of Taking Stock is brought to you by Bulwark Insurance Agency, insurance made easy, and
Download today. Register using your existing NCB online banking login credentials. To open an account or get more info, contact our Wealth Hub today.
Welcome back. Welcome back. It is so good to see so many of you on. Over 200 people tuned into the live so far. And let me shout out those of you who joined us early. Natoya was the first person to comment. Natoya says, ready, present as always, ready and waiting. Big up yourself, Natoya. She was on from like 7:45, waiting on the show to start. So we love that. Lemuel says, tuning in from NYC. So yes, love to see the people there in NYC. What part of NYC are you in? Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan? You know, where are you from? Floyd Brown says, straight out of St. James. So over on the other end of the island. Montego Bay in the house? Another part of St. James. Big up yourself, Floyd. D. Duncan is all the way in the BX in the Bronx. BX in the house, representing bright and early, even though it's technically dark, but I get what you're saying. Just Cool is in St. Thomas, Jamaica. I'm very happy that you have good internet there in St. Thomas. Just Cool, because I know they always say it's the forgotten parish, right? It's some data issues, some internet issues going on there. MPs, if you're watching, you need to sort out St. Thomas properly, but I'm happy that you're able to join us live. Just Cool. Colette Brown is in Kingston, another one of our early viewers, always here, you know, ready and waiting. And then Tariq says, Dolla shares make me feel like a billionaire overnight. LOL. And we're definitely going to talk about that tonight with our analyst panel. Where to Live JA says they're tuning in from Black River, St. Elizabeth, ready to get this money. And shout out also to Ramon. Oh, we already called Ramon. Says early check-in from Somerset, Manchester. Dolla is fire. Yes. So clearly there is a major topic on many of your minds this evening. And of course, we're going to talk about it. But first, let me tell you, to those of you who are fathers watching, a belated happy Father's Day to you. And we have a giveaway for a special dad later on in the program. So make sure you tune in. We're going to give you all the instructions, all the details on how to win and what potentially you may win. I have quite a few things here that I've been meaning to give away. So it's about time that we start doing some giveaways on the show. So dads, listen out. We are going to be doing a giveaway for you later in the show. All right, so let's get this show started. This evening, we're starting off with things a little bit different. So you may have seen that in the intro to the program. You may have noticed it on the thumbnail to this program as well. We are having an all analysts evening. So we're having our analyst panel. We have our topics that we're going to discuss. And this is all about you, the viewers, as well. What's on your mind? What do you want to talk about? We'll try our best to facilitate the conversation. There may be some things that we might not be able to touch, or members of our panel may not be able to touch for certain reasons, because we do have a new panel this evening, an all new panel, in fact, or I should say almost new for most of them, because a couple of these faces you may have seen on this show before, possibly in other capacities, and now you are seeing them again. There is one brand new face who I am seeing for the first time. I know her very well. I think I know her. You know somebody on social media, I feel like you know them. And I know her, I follow her on Twitter. So let's introduce our analyst panel. Let us meet them. First of all, we have founder of Stocks on the Rocks, Simon Johnson, aka Guru in Training on Twitter, on social media. Hi, Simon.
Hi, Kalila. Hi, everyone.
All right. We also have an investor, best known as Top Striker Shan on Twitter, and her real name is actually Shanice Williams. Welcome, Shanice.
Hi, nice everybody. Thanks for having me.
And we also have with us Jillian Jackson. She is a financial blogger. You may know her website, financialsensibility.com. Hi, Jillian.
Hi, Kalila. Good night, everyone.
So those of you who've been following Taking Stock from day one, you remember Simon used to be a regular analyst on the show, and Jillian has been on a few times, and Shanice, this is her first time on the program. So it's my pleasure to have this panel with us today. And first, we got to talk about Dolla, because we haven't had a discussion since the company actually listed on the stock exchange last week. You see the stock price closed at so I checked it earlier, now I can't remember, $3 and something cents
32.
today. 332 is where it ended the day.
Yeah.
Up from IPO price $1. So imagine if you had invested $10,000 in this IPO, that $10,000 is today worth 30, how much you said? 332? Would be worth $33,200. If you had invested $100,000, today that $100,000 would be worth $332,000. If you had invested $1 million, today that would be worth $3.32 million. So you would have tripled your money in the space of a few days, and that has a lot of people excited, naturally so. So let's talk about this performance, and I want to start with Shanice, because I know you, well, like I said, you're the newbie on the panel, so let's get to know you a little bit and know that you follow these prices daily. You are in it to win it. You are there. What have been your observations in these first few days?
I mean, it was all out war. It really was. There were so many people who were competing to get these shares that it was almost impossible to get them. I, for one, couldn't even get shares until earlier this week. And today was the day that I think most people were able to get most of the shares that they wanted to get initially. Because initially, most of us got less than 5% of what we actually ordered in the IPO. So the demand was very heavy. You saw it in the queue every day. At one point, I saw almost up to 5,000 people in the buy queue, which was something I've never seen before. So it really shows how interested people are getting in the market. IPOs, I think, are really exposing a lot of new investors to the market, and it's something really interesting to see.
Yeah, so Jillian, I don't know if you are in it day to day. I know Shanice is, but I don't know what you have seen, what you have observed over the past few days, read Dolla.
I mean, I'm not in it day to day like Shanice, but I was watching what was happening on IPO day and before that and everything, and I'm glad to know that persons were actually able to get something, because I know it has been, as she said, it was like a dog fight before. I tried to get as well when it after it listed, and I was not successful, and I kind of just said, I let it be. So I'm glad to hear that persons are getting. It does support the fact that IPOs are really bringing in and attracting a lot of people, and there are some new IPOs coming out that persons I think will also gravitate towards, with how much money was put towards this one that had to be refunded is really really telling.
Yeah, so we saw last week, indeed, as Shanice mentioned, that nobody was selling. Everybody was trying to, and of course, naturally, if you have shares, you want to get the maximum price for your shares possible. But, so people had to wait based on the small allocation. Simon, I don't know how much you can comment on this. Um,
Yeah. I mean, what I can say, Kalila, is it was very good to see, and I think what stands out to me a bit more is that as these new offerings come and the new IPOs, the new companies come on the market, it brings with them thousands of people. I believe that Dollar would have broken a few records, having the most shareholders. I believe Top Striker can correct me, for doing a market listing and probably overall. So that was really good to see. It's really good to see more people being exposed to the market and getting a share of that performance.
all right, so the big question in the room now is are we seeing the price already starting to dip? So is this the maximum for a while? And, long term, it may well go up some more, but are we seeing it based on what the cues look like today, Shanice? Is it looking like it's going to start dipping after today?
I mean, I can't say for sure. The market can be very unpredictable when it's ready. Today was the first day that it didn't hit the limit for the day. And when we get into the circuit breaker, we'll understand the limits a little more. But this was the first day that we finally saw some slowing down, because every day before this, it was trading up to the limit, could hardly get any shares. Today, it finally sold down a bit and more people were able to acquire shares. Will it continue going down? I can't say. There's still a very, very heavy demand for this stock. There are still thousands of people who are in the queue trying to buy the stock. Many top investors, big investors, have publicly said they want a certain amount of shares. So the demand is still there for the stock. We saw about 63 million units crossing today, which was the biggest volume we've seen so far. So it's getting a little saturated in the market. So it will definitely trade a little differently than it's been trading for the previous 4 days. So that will be an interesting one to see how that plays out tomorrow.
And let me give the standard disclaimer. I forgot to do it earlier, normally because I do it in the second half of the show. But the standard disclaimer: this is not intended as financial advice, people. Even though some of our panel are financial advisors, they're not your financial advisor. So you need to consult your own licensed financial advisor before making any investment decisions. This information is for educational and information purposes only. All right, now that we have that out of the way, let me take just a few comments on Dolla. So the thing from Dwight was saying Dolla peak, and that was the question people were asking, if it is at its peak. Nobody can predict the future, like Shanice says. And then Kenton says, I only got a piece of the cake, didn't get my full plate. Nobody did, unless you were in on the reserve. I think the reserve shareholder, I don't think I know. The reserve shareholders did get their full allocation, but most people, had to duke it out in the trenches, and still are duking it out in the trenches for Dolla. And Shanice mentioned something as well just now, that it had hit the limit every day for the past, since it listed until today, right? And that limit we're talking about is the circuit breaker. And so this evening we want to kind of explain what the circuit breaker rule is. I saw some comments online last week, saying that it's unfair. Some people didn't quite understand what was going on. So Shanice, I want you to explain to the people, what is this circuit breaker rule, why it's important, and what happened with Dolla.
All right, so the circuit breaker rule, probably one of the hottest topics over the past couple of days, especially with the Dolla listing. And a lot of people have different understandings of what the rule really is, different interpretations. So I will give you how I understand it and how I see it to work on the market on a daily basis. So what really is a circuit breaker? So it's a measure that's put in place by JSE, right? So really control how a stock can actually trade in a certain time period on any given day. So it's really a trigger point. So it's a circuit breaker. It works like an electrical circuit. You know, when you're at home, you have too much things running. You probably have the washing machine on, the microwave on, you have on all the lights, and you break out chips. It chips because it's overloaded and it's about to enter into some dangerous level. So it shuts down to give it kind of a calm down period. And it's the same principle with the circuit breaker for the stock market. So it's a trigger point. So it has certain boundaries. And once those boundaries are stepped outside of, then it triggers the circuit breaker and it shuts down trading on the security for an hour. Well, it's an hour in our market. How the rule really works for the JSE. So the JSE circuit breaker rule really says that if there's a trade that crosses above or below 15% of the reference price for any stock, then the breaker is triggered. So if it passes 15% going up or down, then the breaker is triggered and the stock is going to halt for an hour. Now it's 15% of the reference price. What is the reference price? The reference price can be two things. So it can either be the close price for the previous day, which is really the volume weighted average price for all the units that would have traded the previous day. So it's either the close price or it can be the effective close price. Now, the effective close price really comes into play when you have two scenarios. So either the closing bid, which is the top buy order, if that is greater than the actual close price of the day, then that becomes the effective close price and essentially the reference price. And the second scenario is the closing ask, which is the top sell order. If that is actually lower than the closing price for the previous day, then the reference price for the next day will be the top sell order, which is the closing ask. All right, so we have reference price out of the way. So if a trade goes above the 15%, it is triggered. Now, there's also a limit. So above the 15%, what the circuit breaker rule actually says is that any trade that triggers the breaker shouldn't pass a further 15% price band from the original prescribed price band. So you have a 15% room initially before you hit the breaker, and you have another 15% room after the breaker. So you essentially have upwards and downwards of 30% of the reference price that you can actually trade for the day. And that's the rule that's set by JSE. So once this trade crosses, the stock is going to halt. It's going to halt for an hour. So you won't be able to do any sort of activities on the stock while it's halted. And when the halt reopens, it's going to give you a new reference price. Now, that new reference price is going to be calculated using a simple average of the initial reference price, which was the price for the start of the day, the reference for the start of the day, and the price that triggered the breaker, which we call the trigger price. So it's the average of the first reference price and the trigger price that gives you the new reference price. And then after that, there's a new limit that you can trade for the day when it reopens, which is a further 15%. It actually can't pass 15% when it unhalts. So that is essentially the circuit breaker rule. You have an initial trading limit of 30%. The breaker is triggered after 15%. When it's triggered, it halts, a new reference price is calculated, and then you can trade a further 15% above or below that new reference price.
All right.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I thought you were finished, but go ahead.
Oh man. All right. So why is the circuit breaker important, especially around like IPOs? So it's really important for you to know the rules in order to be competitive in the space, because in the market, everybody's bidding. You're bidding for the shares, right? And if there's such a heavy demand, Dollar got 40,000 applications. That don't probably not going to be 40,000 people, but it's a good couple thousand people. And all of those people got less than 5% of what they actually wanted to buy in the IPO. So you know when it lists, there's going to be quite a heavy demand for those shares, and everybody is going to have to sit in the same line to get the shares. And it's a bid. So if you really want to get the shares and you're bidding against everybody, you really have to be the highest bidder. That's how it works. The highest bidder wins. And in order for you to be the highest bidder, you need to know what price will allow you to get to the top of the queue. So that's why you have to understand the circuit breaker, because you can only calculate that price by knowing the circuit breaker. So when Dollar listed on day one and you looked at the queue at 9 o'clock and you saw hundreds of orders at 1:30, it wasn't really a coincidence that everybody just decided to put 1:30. It was calculated based on what the trading limit would have been for that initial time period, because the shares listed at $1. So that would have been the reference price. And then the upper limit for that would have been 30%, so 1:30. So the people would have placed their orders at 1:30 going down the line to try and be competitive for the shares. And it doesn't just work for IPOs. You can do that for any stock at any time of the on any given day. It's not just IPOs that it works for. So it's a controversial rule.
And I was just coming to that, because not every country, not every stock exchange has this circuit breaker. And it works both ways, by the way. So there's a limit on the upper end, and there's also a limit on the lower end. So a stock price cannot fall below that same 30% in a single day. So I want to bring in the other two panelists here. Simon, this is controversial. Like I was saying, there are people who believe that it's unnecessary and that you should just let the market decide what the stock price is, especially for something like this, where you have this really, really high demand. There are some stock exchanges where, it's done like this. There are some where it's done where the entire exchange is on a circuit breaker. So the entire exchange cannot rise or fall beyond a certain percentage amount, but it isn't limited. It isn't triggered by individual stocks. What's your position on it, Simon? Do you think the circuit breaker is good or bad?
Well, I think having what I can say is that, I mean, there was a reason why circuit breakers are implemented in the first place. Certainly, we can always take a second look at it and see if where it is now, and how the market has changed and evolved since, if it is now meeting the objectives that it was intended to meet. So for me personally, I'm an open book. As it pertains to this particular issue, I usually like to hear when Shanice gives her viewpoint, and others give their viewpoints, and try to find some form of balance in the middle, because I think the consideration as well, Kalila, that some have is that if there is, let's use a scenario where there's no circuit breaker, and a stock can practically go up by any amount and go down by any amount. What some believe and what may happen is that there may be an increase in what we call volatility in the market. So it's more volatile, and less predictable. The thing is that a large portion of the assets in this country, parts not just owned by the government, but owned by financial institutions, pension funds. A lot of people's pension funds are dependent on this, and what goes up comes down. So I guess the fear from some is that, yes, it's amazing when something goes up 500%, and you do great, and if that can be done in one day, then fine. But if it can go down by 300%, it can really cause real great stress on the financial system, and that hurts everybody across the board once you interact with that system.
So Lanestra online says, I have no problem with the circuit breaker. Leon also agreeing, have no issue with it. If it remove, it will damage a lot of these stocks because not everyone is a smart investor. Jillian, what's your position on it?
Yeah, I mean, I would support what Simon and Shanice have, or Simon has said and Shanice as well, that the circuit breaker was put there for a reason. So if we're going to do any adjustments, it would be backed by, research and thoroughly kind of assessing what the implications would be of adjusting the circuit breaker. But it's there to protect shareholders or persons who are purchasing stocks for the first time, or on a long-term basis. It's there to protect them against the volatility, as Simon mentioned. So if it was to be adjusted, I know I've been in many fora where people say, free up the circuit breaker, but I would support it backed by research.
Yeah, I'm surprised everybody's in agreement on the panel this evening, because I know this is a very hot topic, a very controversial topic. And where you go on finance, Twitter, JA, enough people do not agree with it. But you have to remember, guys, it does go both ways. So if it's, there's a cap on the limit, also remember there is a cap on the bottom, and it would be chaos if everybody decided to sell a particular stock on one day and that stock just really crash. There is some level of protection in it. So yeah, if you feel otherwise, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear other perspectives on this matter. So we have a lot more to discuss. Yeah, Simon.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to say one more thing. Another thing with the market is, so the support. Well, the support for removing, and I'm kind of using two make extremes, removing it and having it, because there is support for removing it completely. They usually focus on the upside. As you said, there's upside and there's a downside. But the percentage, a good amount of investors actually lose when these stocks move. Somebody mentioned this smart investor thing, which I'd like to be defined. But people lose every day on the market. It's if somebody is collecting 300, 400, 500% on a day and exiting a stock, somebody actually has to enter the stock for them to leave, which means that somebody bought that, and when it goes back down 300, 400%, it needs to actually go back up more than 400% for you to break.
True. So I have a couple more comments on this topic. Horace says the 1 hour waiting time is far too long, that initial cool off period. And then there's a question from Tiwi who wants to know, so what determines how much of the orders between 15 and 30% of the first circuit breaker is filled? Who can answer that question?
That's something that you have to read the pre-open rules to understand, because there's a certain way that orders are allowed to trade on the market based on the rules that are laid out by JSE. So I would implore you all to go and read the rules so you can really understand how trades will cross, because it's going to be at a certain price based on the volume that is being traded and the prices that people are trying to buy and sell for.
Okay, we have a couple of other comments here, but let us take a break. We have quite a few other things to talk about this week. We have interest rates, what's going on with housing prices in the US and Jamaica, and of course, the ever-present inflation. Plus, there are lots of comments, lots of questions in the chat from people who want to ask the analysts. So let's take a break here. It's time now for your market recap. And of course, you have your analyst panel standing by.
This segment of Taking Stock was brought to you by Bulwark Insurance Agency. Insurance made easy and...
Download today. Register using your existing NCB online banking login credentials. To open an account or get more info, contact our Wealth Hub today.
Scotia Elevate is a new life insurance plan from Scotia Insurance for the big thinkers and go-getters. Stay protected with up to $12 million in life coverage and up to $6 million in accidental death and dismemberment. Plus, enjoy customized investments to help build your net worth. Learn more at jm.scotiabank.com.
Time now for your market recap. The JSE Combined Index declined last week, falling just over 3,700 points or almost 1%. 119 stocks traded across the main and junior markets for the week, ending Friday, June 17, 2022. 50 advanced, 58 declined, and 11 stayed the same. 104 million shares changed hands on the Jamaican dollar market, valued at over $1.6 billion. Wigton Wind Farm was the most traded stock, taking up 10% of market volume. People bought and sold 10.7 million shares in the company. The stock opened this week at 54 cents. Productive Business Solutions 9.75% cumulative redeemable preference shares traded at the second highest volume. People bought and sold 7 million shares in the company. The stock opened the new week at $107. And Sagicor Select Funds Financial rounded out the most traded, taking up almost 6% of market volume with nearly 6 million shares trading. The stock's price fell by 3 cents to open this week at 46 cents. Now let's see who had the biggest gains last week. Dolla Financial had an impressive first week on the stock market. The stock's price was already up 131% from its IPO price by Monday. The stock opened Monday at $2.31. SSL Venture Capital is up 80%, following news that their acquisition by MFS is complete. SSLVC opened this week at $3.32. And CAC 2000 9.5% cumulative redeemable preference shares was up nearly 16% to open the new week at $1.17. On the losing side now, Epley 7.5% preference shares due 2024 was last week's biggest loser, down 17% to open Monday at $6. Knutsford Express was the second biggest loser, down almost 17% to close last week at $7.01. And Trans-Jamaican Highway USD was down 16% to close last week at 1 cent US. And on the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, the composite index declined last week, losing 6 points or about 0.5%. Massey Holdings was the most traded stock. It opened this week at $5.18 TT. LJ Williams was the market's biggest gainer, up almost 7% to open this new week at $2.08 TT. And on the losing side, Unilever Caribbean fell 13% to open the new week at $12.83 TT. Over in the US, the Dow Jones and the S&P 500 ended last week down 4%, and the Nasdaq fell almost 2%. Over at the pumps, motorists saw a slight dip in wholesale gas prices, which fell by 25 cents a litre. However, the cost of diesel went up by another $4.50 a litre. In foreign exchange, it took an average $152.70 Jamaican to purchase $1 last Friday. And the crypto winter continues. Bitcoin fell 9% in the past 5 days, trading at $20,496 on Monday, while Ethereum fell another 8% in the past 5 days, trading at $1,131 on Monday. This segment of Taking Stock, The Analysts, is brought to you by Ideal Securities Brokers Limited.
Welcome back, everybody, to Taking Stock. Time now for the analysts, even though the analysts have already been on. Reminding you to hit the like button. I see we have almost 400 people watching us right now, which is super awesome. But give us a like. Let people know that you like this video. Also, we want you to take our poll question this evening, and the poll question has to do naturally with the circuit breaker. So what do you think about the JSE's circuit breaker rule and its impact on trading? Take that poll on my YouTube channel, the community tab, or you can also take the poll on Twitter. What do you think about the JSE circuit breaker rule and its impact on trading? A, I hate it, but I understand why it's there. B, we don't need it. C, it helps to regulate trading. trading activity. D, I'm indifferent. E, other. And of course, we ask you to leave a comment explaining what your position of other actually is. Let me take a few comments from the panel, from the viewers right now, based on the discussion we were just having. There are quite a few comments about it. Hector says, Shan, I get some Dolla shares today, but my shame for set a price. I've failed you. Tears.
Hector.
I mean, so it goes, you win some, you lose some. But you
Honestly, it
got
was rough for
all
all
your
of us.
shares. It could be a win. I mean, it could still go up. We don't know what's going to happen. And it depends on your timeline, too. If it was an early exit you're looking for, or a long-term play, let's see what happens. Delano says the circuit breaker is needed because Jamaican investors often try and flip stocks. So they borrow money to invest from banks at high interest rates, hoping to gain. So the breaker is very good. Let me see what else we have here. A couple of them. Steven says, let's cap it at the lower end only. I don't know, because it's all about balance too, That's another matter, but Steven says. All right. I see what you guys are saying, but the lower end only. And then O'Shane says, circuit breaker rule is really effective when you have a stock that's taking a dive. It gives you time to jump out if you want to. So there you go. There is that to consider as well. All right, let us get back into the program because we have quite a few other topics to discuss. Of course, circuit breaker and Dolla being one of the hot topics, but there are many other things going on in the economy. We got to talk about inflation. So Statin put out the latest inflation numbers, I think late last week. And for the first time in 3 months, we are finally seeing a dip in inflation. And when I say a dip, it's actually in the point-to-point inflation rate. So let me just simply explain what point-to-point means. It means a point last year compared to the similar point this year. So these numbers were for May. So we're comparing May 2021 to May 2022. Those are the 2 points. So you can also call it inflation over the last 12 months. And that has finally dipped just a little, but it's still high. What are we looking at now, Simon?
Yeah, so the inflation rate went down a bit on a point-to-point basis, as you explained, which is really just a summation of the last 12 months, to 10.9%. The majority of the movements would have been explained. I think what's important for the viewers to, I guess, ask or know is what is the expectation of inflation going forward. And unfortunately, the BOJ or the Bank of Jamaica would have already stated in their monetary policy statements that they do expect inflation to go up over this summer. They quoted, I believe, 12 to 15%. So the drop this this point to point as well. It's important to note that, and Kalila, you explained it, because the month last year that we're comparing it to was really high, I believe at 1.2%, and then the month this, which was one of the highest months that we've had in recent times, the month this year was still an increase, but it was much lower. Overall inflation fell for that period. However, inflation is still high, and it's still above what we call the BOJ's range, or just better yet, where the technocrats expect inflation to be, or want inflation to be, rather. It's still way above that 6% top range, and they actually stated that over the next 2 years they expect it to be closer to about 8 to 9%. So what does this mean? Khalil, I know you have this. What does this mean for you? Um, what will continue to happen? So some people might have already gotten their emails of financial institutions increasing their interest rates. I think that is likely to continue to happen as the pressures of inflation continues on the economy, and as such, the cost of, for example, taking a loan for a car or getting a mortgage for a house is will likely to continue to increase into the foreseeable future until this is kind of held back. However, the longer term view on inflation is that it will eventually come back down. But of course, there are factors that may cause that to stay higher for longer than is expected, such as the conflict that is happening in Ukraine. I know some people seems to have forgotten, but that is still affecting um, the already affected supply chain, or just how goods are transferred across the world and the cost of doing so already. So unfortunately the outlook over the short to medium term is still relatively high inflation.
And when we look at the breakout numbers as to what inflation actually was, so we're looking at food prices up 14%. We're looking at restaurant and accommodation services, so going out to eat or going out, they call it Emancipation and Independence Weekend coming up in August. That's up 29%, so almost 30% more is going to cost you to go out compared to the same time last year. And then transport, we all know transportation prices have gone up. That's up 15%. So this inflation thing, even though it has dipped, it is a relatively small dip, but at least it's in the right direction. And we continue watching it to see what the trend holds for the rest of the year. All right. Next thing that we have to talk about, and I see a lot of questions coming in for you guys, the analysts. I hope you're monitoring the chat so that you can, start preparing. If you want to choose any specifically that you want to address, you can do that. Jillian, this whole inflation thing is also linked to housing. Jamaica isn't the only country that's experiencing high inflation. We're seeing it in the United States and other developed countries as well. And US housing rates are now at an all-time high. Tell us what's going on and how that ties into Jamaica.
Sure. Well, all right. I'm going to share my screen. It's actually It's actually at a 14-year high. So 14 years ago was the last time the United States has seen housing prices at the level that it's at now. So let me know if you're seeing my screen. Are you?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Should be coming up any minute now.
Okay.
I think our producer has to add it.
Oh, okay.
Producer, yes. Add it to the show. There we go.
All right. Awesome. We're good to go. I see. So, all right. So mortgage rates in the US are at a 14-year high. Why is that? So let's put it in context, first of all. So mortgage rates are at 5.78% as of June 16th. And it's the biggest jump they've ever seen compared to a week ago where it was 5.23%. So it jumped by almost 50 basis points, over 50 basis points in a week, which is unheard of for them. To put that in context as well, there is an insane demand for housing in the United States right now. The Realtors Association of the US says that there is a shortfall of about 6.8 million housing units. So the demand for housing, especially in the mid-range, is extremely high. So I saw stories before this even happened. There were stories of persons lined up outside of houses for once it listed on the market. There were lines around the block, and persons were getting like 80 offers in the space of 2 hours on a house over there. So the demand over there, especially in the mid-income areas, is extremely high. Housing prices, they continue to climb in the US as well. So housing prices are going up because of the fact that the demand is so high. And the price increases may put a damper on this, but analysts in the US basically say that they think that it would rather, instead of pushing the price down, it will cause a delay or a longer time to sell your property rather than it pushing the price down. So prices aren't likely to drop drastically in the US either. So it's caused by the Fed's the big spike that we saw last week or this week is caused by the Fed's announcement of increasing their benchmark rates. So the benchmark lending rates that the central bank has jumped up to 1.5% at the lower limit and 1.75% at the upper limit. So their lending rates have been typically low, and that drives a lot of what happens in the economy, as you know. So this is the largest increase in the Fed rate, and that is what kind of triggered the reaction in the mortgage rate market. This is caused also by inflation in America. As you mentioned, inflation is extremely high. I have a table here that shows what inflation looks like across the world, with Jamaica 10.9, as you mentioned before, Simon. America has inflation at a rate of 8.6. We started to increase our policy rate in September of last year when inflation was at 6%. So America just increased theirs just this week or last week. They just increased theirs to the 1.5% that we increased in September of last year, September 2021. And you see how fast the mortgage market reacted. They jumped, the rate climbed almost immediately at the same time of that announcement. I'll tell you what that means with in comparison to Jamaica in a second. But in general, affordability for housing in America is going down. And I'll tell you how that ties into Jamaica as well soon. So houses are less affordable. This is an affordability index that shows that it's been the lowest. So if the graph goes up, that means houses are more affordable. And if it goes down, they're less affordable. So houses are becoming less affordable in America. And last night I had a little discussion on this, and my friend Julian put up a very interesting graph when we were having that discussion. I'll show it in a second. But in general, rates are climbing in Canada, in the UK, in France, everywhere where you see, rates going up, or the Fed adjusting the rate at the central bank, then mortgage rates are also going up with it. So the US mortgage rate is about 5.78. Jamaica's rates, these come from the BOJ's credit condition survey, and the last one published when I checked yesterday was from December. So they had forward-looking projections for March and June. So in December, they projected that the average rate across the market was going to be about 7.25%. But since that publication, banks have come out, as Simon mentioned, and said that they're going to be increasing their lending rates, including for mortgages. So if you even already have a mortgage, your rate will likely be going up. So this 7.25 is probably understated, but those rates haven't even come into effect yet. So most banks announce it ahead of time, and then the rates are enacted a couple months later or a month or so later. So most of those rate increases are supposed to take effect at the end of June or early July, depending on which financial institution. So the arrow shows when the policy rate increase was announced in both countries. So our policy rate increased to the 1.5%. The first one, it's increased to 5%. It's at 5% now. But the first one was announced all the way back in September, and we are just now in June increasing rates. And in the US, it was announced, and they were predicting that, with the inflation, that things were going to go up. So they started to increase their rates as soon as the inflation rate started to go up as well. They didn't wait on a policy announcement for that benchmark rate. So they reacted quite quickly, though, with that big 1 week jump, and push the rate up to 5.78%, and it will continue to go up over there. So housing in general, less affordable in countries like the US, UK, Canada, and where a lot of the Jamaican diaspora reside. So this is the graph I was telling you that Julian put up. I wanted to include it because this affects us. So when house prices become unaffordable, in countries like Canada had to actually bar outsiders from coming into Canada and buying property because their housing situation, it was getting out of control. Their housing price had spiked, as you can see in this graph, to levels where persons who are from Canada could not afford housing anymore. And that we see that happening all across the globe, but it had a really, really high spike over there. So the reason why I brought this up is because of what is here, that when they can't afford houses over there, or when they find it harder to get housing over there, and it's easier or more attractive to get a house in Jamaica at half or quarter of the price, because it's a lot. When houses are being listed in US dollars, it seems like a lot to us, but when you're earning US dollars or Canadian dollars, it may not seem like that much. A $200,000 property in America is probably impossible to find, but you can find a $200,000 US property out here. If it's by the beach or in the country, you can find them some places. So persons who come back and try to buy property in Jamaica, they are the persons that are kind of causing prices out here to continue to go up, because they have the cash to be able to afford these US dollar priced houses, and they are using that cash to be able to use it as an investment property or even as a second home when they don't really, a lot of them don't even live here. We're talking about this last night. So you'll drive by and you'll see a lot of these apartments empty and things like that, because a lot of persons are buying them as investment properties. Also, just to say how this may impact us as well, the fact that rates are going to go up, rates are going up overseas, rates are going to continue going up here probably. Persons who do have a mortgage, and we're budgeting for, as Simon said, there's inflation now, so we have to budget for an increase in the cost of food, an increase in gas prices, and now we have to budget for the increase in possibly our loan rates. So just bear that in mind.
Let me just add to that. It also affects if you're a renter, because your landlord has a higher mortgage rate to pay, so they're probably going to raise the rent.
Yes, so it does have a ripple effect. So that's another crisis in America, to the rent crisis. The rent prices, if I had shown that graph as well, you'll see them spiking just as much as the mortgage rates. So everything does tie in together. The cost of housing is going up, the cost of transportation. So we're in some times where we really have to do some tightenings of our belts to be able to weather the storm, because things are rapidly changing because of the inflation and because of the policy rates going up. So just be on the ball and look out for that.
Yeah, well, you've answered a question that a lot of people have had over the past 5 years or so, which is who's buying all these luxury apartments and luxury developments. So you're saying that members of the diaspora who are earning in US dollars, Canadian dollars, British pounds are coming in, buying up these properties and crowding out the market, making it less affordable for people who actually live here, who are trying to buy a house now. So the big question is, if you are in the housing market, Jillian, and here's the standard disclaimer again, reminder, this is not financial advice. This is for information purposes only. And we express opinions on this show, but, consult your licensed financial advisor. The big question now is, in your opinion, what should people do now who are in the housing market? Should we wait until things cool down, if it's going to cool down, or should we buy now before it gets worse?
So if you're in the market for a house and you can find a house, I would say buy the house, because rates will fluctuate. Right now, they may be going up, but I personally have benefited from a rate decrease when mortgage rates went down. So they'll go up and down, they'll fluctuate, but generally we're not going to see, I don't think we're going to see the rates that were happening in the 70s and the 80s. I was looking back at even the 90s rather. It was 34% for a mortgage, and I just showed that it's 7.25% now. So I don't think it's going to climb to that level. I could be wrong. I mean, anything can happen. Housing prices in Jamaica, as you know, they generally don't trend downwards. So they'll probably remain stagnant or increase slightly or increase a lot, depending on where the house is. So I would say if you're in the market for a house and you can find a house, because remember I had said that there's a 6.8 million deficit in housing availability in America. I don't know the exact number here because we don't track those statistics as well as America does, but there is a high demand for housing for young. So if you can find a house, I have calculators on my website. You can calculate what it would cost with the old rate, what it would cost with the new rate, and kind of budget for a rate increase and see if you can manage the payments. I think buying a house is an awesome thing, so you should continue looking into it if you're in the market for it.
And that website is Financial Sensibility, CENTS, Stability right? Follow all
Right.
these guys, everybody. Follow them. Steinman is at Stocks on the Rocks and at Guru in Training on Twitter. Shanice is Top Striker Shan. Jillian is Miss Jilly J. Follow all these guys. Follow their platforms. Simon's also on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. Let's take some questions from the audience because there are a lot. They have been piling up. Rebecca, first of all, Nadia
Kalila,
says,
I want to answer one. Oh, go ahead.
oh, yeah, this was a big up for Simon. Nadia said, yay, Simon, I feel like I know Simon, my bestie from Twitter. And of course, the big boss, Shanice. So, yeah, you had one that you wanted to address, Jillian? Oh, that's not the one I meant to put up. All right, just go ahead. Which one you wanted to address? Jillian's breaking up.
There's one by
slow.
Dwight Walker.
Right.
He said everybody's wishing for the real estate market to crash because these prices in Jamaica are out of reach for the middle class. Wishful thinking.
Yeah, I was looking for that one again. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that, yeah, it's probably not going to, there's not going to be a big drop or decline in prices. So it is wishful thinking. Agreed with you. It's probably not going to crash.
All right, let's go through some of these questions and you guys can just jump in if you want to answer it because I don't know which ones you are able to answer at this point. And I know Simon has some conflict of interest issues that we have to maintain. So the first one comes from Rebecca, who wants to, he said, can we talk about the potential stock split for Fosrich? So if anyone wants to weigh in on that, let me know now. Shannon, anything on Fosrich?
I mean, I feel like a lot has been said around Fosrich. But yeah, there's a split coming up. There was a meeting that happened today to really confirm the split and know. So we'll hear there's a lot more about that tomorrow. I think it should be scheduled for sometime in July, towards the end of July, which I believe it's impeccable timing on that split. If you know how split works and how other activities happening around the split can work, so you can look more into that split for Fosrich. And I mean, Fosrich has been doing a lot as well over the past couple of months, and they've been giving us some pretty good results. So it's definitely one to look into and to speak to your licensed financial advisor if it's something that would be suitable for you to make an investment in.
Okay, so I'm gonna post in the chat a link to a video I did explaining what a stock split is. So if you need more information on that, you can understand what is a stock split. The next question, I have to ask this question because Javon has been asking this question for about the past 3 weeks and I never get to it. So I have to pose the question. Javon wants to know, what is the story behind Purity's downturn and is there a potential to bounce back? Are you able to comment, Simon?
No, I haven't been watching Purity. That's not one of the ones I've been watching. Maybe one of the other guys can take up.
That I didn't hear you. That's not what?
I'm saying that's not one of the ones the stocks that I've been watching. So
That you've been watching.
Can't tell you.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. I guess I have to ask it again next week, Javon, or put it on the agenda. Sorry to disappoint you this week.
But Javon sounds like you should know by now.
Huh?
Javon sounds like it's something that he should know by now. He's been watching it for so long.
I know, right? He wants answers. He sees it going down. He wants to know why. All right. Omar wants to know any new IPO. So here's the thing, Omar. Somebody else also asked a similar question. Oh, let me find it here. Future Kid said, as a new trader, where can I find a list of upcoming IPOs? The answer is nowhere. These things are kept very hush-hush. There are often rumors. Sometimes we have a little, hint of things to come based on you start seeing certain media placements. You start seeing all of a sudden certain people start doing press interviews and you can kind of take cues from that. Sometimes you may get a little idea, especially like me as a journalist, I might hear things, but it's always very hush-hush. There rarely is confirmation. Well, I shouldn't even say rarely. There isn't, because they're not allowed to disclose before a certain time. So you might hear things, but you don't get confirmation until that prospectus actually drops. So you might hear that somebody intends to list, but you don't know when. They don't have a date. When it drops, it drops. So there is no way to actually know what's coming and when. That said, though, ears to the street. Have y'all heard anything about what's coming out soon?
Other than
And by soon,
what
I mean in
Minister
the next
Clark
couple of months.
announced.
Huh?
I said, other than what Minister Clark announced a year or two ago. No.
Oh, the thing about the candy, what do you call it, sweetie?
JPS and Jamaica Mortgage Bank.
Oh, those
the
two,
ones
yes.
from
Yeah, we've been waiting
he
on
announced
GPS for a
those.
while.
Yes, every week somebody asks me about GPS, but I have not heard any updates.
I know around this time, Jamaican Teas is supposed to be also listing their manufacturing arm, which they had given a timeline closer to right now for when we should expect that. So I think that's what we
Yes.
should look for as well soon.
What was it called again?
Caribbean Dreams.
Caribbean Dreams. Yes, yes, they did say that, and they were on this show telling us about it as well. John Jackson was
Yeah,
on
they
the
had
show
a summer timeline.
sometime last year. Yeah, so we've heard of that one. I saw an interview with a business owner, a business leader in the paper very recently, and I've heard that that company is doing an IPO. And I often get calls when an IPO is preparing to come out from like PR firms or whoever is representing them, asking about interviews on the show. I got one such call today, but they never tell me who it is. And that's the thing. They never say who it is, and they never say when, because they're not allowed to. But I just tell you, I got a call today. So could be that something is coming up very, very soon. I don't know. And they didn't even say it was an IPO, but you can kind of, whenever they're hush hush about these things, you can kind of start figuring out, okay, maybe something is coming very soon. So yeah, there's no way to know what exactly is coming up. Next question comes from, how you said, it's Taweda, who wants to know, with the global energy crisis, what can we expect for share prices for listed energy companies Fesco and Wigton? Well, I feel like Fesco got that surge right around the war in Ukraine timeline. I don't know if it was related. It quite possibly could have been related. I started seeing gas prices going up. People just put two and two together and say, let me put some money in Fesco since they sell gas. So what do you guys think? Any expectation for Fesco and Wigton? We also have MPC Caribbean Clean Energy, which is another energy stock that's listed.
Yeah, I think probably I can give my little piece on Fesco or what I can say. So I think the general feeling around that stock is, as gas prices increase, even if the margins stay the same on the company, the dollar value for the profitability does move up, and as such, they're likely to benefit from that. They also have some new locations, a very hot location of the highway, and one ironically and strategically at the top of Beechwood Avenue. So, and they would have just done a very large loan facility with a finance house, and the sentiment, I guess, around that has been that that money must be used for something to grow the business. However, the share price, since a few of those announcements and since that spike, Kalila, I think it went above $8, and came back as low, trading as low as five plus in the mid to low range. It has started to creep up recently, past that five mid range. And when I say five mid, I'm just talking around 530. Well, 550, sorry, and moving. It's actually been a little above $6 for a few trading days now.
All right, thanks for that, Simon. The next question comes from Christopher, who says, is Dolla the only game in town this month? What about Cape Anybody tracking Cape Kingston Properties?
You got
Um,
an
so
allocation today, right?
yeah, so KP Reed said that they got the allocation. So as top striker said, and it was fully allocated. And they were, matter of fact, they were oversubscribed for the amount. So let's see what they do with that new capital in the business. I think what happened was that because the dollar IPO, again being a junior market stock and being an IPO, an initial public offering versus KP REIT's additional public offering where it's already listed on the market, there was a lot of positive sentiment around Dollar and what the expectations were based on previous IPOs, and as such, I think a lot of retail investors just kind of focus on the new guy coming on the market, and maybe more seasoned investors that wanted to get exposure to real estate specifically focused on KP REIT. So as I always say, there's something for everyone. And some investors chose Dollar, a lot of them, and some investors chose KP REIT, and probably some did both.
All right. Next question from Jamario, who wants to know what are some advantages and disadvantages of trading on the local versus international market right now? Well, I tell you, the international market right now is quite volatile,
Right.
as you would have
Right.
seen
Very rough up
in
there.
the market recap. It is rough. If you listen
It's red, man. It's
when
red.
Keisha is on, Profit Jumpstarter is on, she always gives us the recap of what's going on there. Yeah, there are some rough seas, but pros and cons. Anybody trading locally versus internationally?
If you want to look at pros and cons, we can go right back to the circuit breaker, because circuit breakers in even more advanced markets work a lot different than ours. So if you're trading on an international market, there's a circuit breaker that protects stocks from falling, but a stock can actually trade up as far as it can with a lot of the markets there. So there is a downward circuit breaker, but it can trade up as far as you want it to. And the halt time is a lot as well, because in the more advanced markets, stocks are halting for 10 to 15 minutes. We halt for an hour in a market that opens for 4 hours. So the circuit breaker how it's actually set up. I don't think it should be abolished, but how it's actually set up puts us at a disadvantage to a lot of the international markets. But I still am an advocate for the JSE. I still do believe that we have the best stock market in the world. And if you're a Jamaican who wants to make money from the stock market, you shouldn't look anywhere else other than the one that we have here. You'll get the best return out of it over even the international markets.
Yeah, do you have those numbers offhand, like what the average return is here versus there?
The average return is going to differ for different investors, because my average return is definitely not going to be somebody else's average. But a good return in like an international market, they'll tell you is like 30%, whereas you can
that would be annually, year over year.
Annually.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at our market, you can move a lot farther. You can get hundreds of percent. But our market is smaller, so that also does give us an advantage. And we don't really have the level of money that we see in these top markets. So 30% on $100 billion it's going to be a lot than 30% on 100,000 Jamaican dollars that we have down here. So there's a lot of differences, and the comparisons are going to differ, but I think our market is the best for us and for international investors as well.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Shan. You want to chime in there, Simon?
Yeah, man. I have a cool advantage of the overseas market, particularly the US. So I mean, I dipped my hand in the US a little while back, and one of the benefits of trading there is that they have what they call fractional shares. So, for example, you may have a stock that's trading for, let's say, 500 US dollars for 1 unit, right? And you can buy 1 unit. In the US, you can buy less than 1 unit. So you can buy point X percent, 0.1% of a stock based on the amount of money that you have in your account. In Jamaica, well, we don't have fractional shares, so it's down to one account. The benefit here is that the stocks are cheaper, so you don't have a 500 US dollar stock. You have stocks that are trading below $1 or on what this is one Jamaican dollars. A big benefit with the Jamaican market is that you are much closer to the companies, right? So if you live in Jamaica, particularly, or if you are Jamaican, so when you look at a company such as, for example, Grace Kennedy, when you go into almost any supermarket or wholesale, you'll see the products. You'll have an understanding of how the company is doing based on the news that you see in front of you on your traditional media or on YouTube here on Kalila's show. And for companies, for example, like a Jam Tea, a Jamaica Teas, a JetCon, you can actually interact with these CEOs. Sometimes you book up the CEOs in a Fontana or a store somewhere. Matter of fact, you can actually come talk to John Jackson, who's the chairman of Jamaica Teas and JetCon at our thing this Friday. So yeah, you're much closer to the companies.
All right, thanks for that, Simon. I'm going to take three more questions because we're running over time now. So the show, who needed the guest, right? Let me just mention here, because somebody had asked as well. Cruz wanted to know what are the opportunities in Guyana and the listed companies positioned to take advantage of it. Cruz, you would be sorely disappointed about our guest because we were supposed to be joined today by the Energy Minister of Guyana, and he had confirmed weeks ago and had to pull out at the last minute due to an emergency situation. So we're going to have to reschedule that conversation. I do want to go to Guyana to produce a special feature there. I don't know when that's going to be. Probably early 2023, I'm looking at. But yeah, we definitely got to do something on what are the opportunities there based on that industry. Yeah. All right. Said I'm going to take three more questions. So this one is from Thea, who wants to know, how do you recession proof your stock portfolio? Big
Hi.
question right now. Jillian, anything there? What do you do?
That's a tough one. I well, not financial advice at all, but just reassess it, look at where it is. Selling your stock when you only realize gains when you sell the stock, right? So if you realize that your stock portfolio is not performing the way it was, before COVID or before all of this Ukraine war, etc., be patient, be calm. Remember what your goal was in the first place when you were buying that stock. Was your goal to hold it for 5 years? Was your goal to hold it for 10 years? So remember your goals, because you're licensed financial advisor and you would have had that kind of dialogue. So if your goal is to hold it, then hold the stock. The recession is here. Some people would say, buy the dip. But others will say that, now is not a good time to do that because of the way how things are volatile. So, not financial advice. Speak to your financial advisor and they will guide you how to recession proof your portfolio.
And to that person as well, let me just add, you should go back and watch. I think, is that the last week or the week before, we had a young lady from JMMB on the analyst segment, and she was addressing this very same question about how to recession proof your portfolio and looking at especially where interest rates are now. So your question had to do with how do you recession proof your stock portfolio, but you could take a broader view of it and think about how do you recession proof your investment portfolio, which doesn't necessarily have to only include stocks. You could also look at things like bonds, at treasury bills, at other instruments that are out there, especially since interest rates are going up. There are instruments that will actually benefit, right? So go back to, I think it was last week's episode, look at the analyst discussion and what she was saying there and some of the recommendations, with the disclaimer, of course, that this is not investment advice. All right, so let's take two more questions. Lenworth wanted to know, okay, we were talking about the policy interest rate by the BOJ, and Lenworth wanted to know, how does this policy interest rate actually work? Is it the rate that BOJ pays to the banks, or the banks pay to BOJ? To what is it?
In the last episode, I think, or second to last episode, David did a good explanation of this, but it's basically the rate that banks pay to the BOJ to borrow money, or banks can borrow from other banks at that rate. To cut a long story short, so I don't know if there's a more complex way to put it, but yeah, or a simpler way to put it.
All right. I'm just trying to type something here in the chat, but I'm going to do that later. Okay, let's take that one off. And let's see what else we have. I'm going to take this last question. I already took one from Tawada, who had a lot of questions. So let me give somebody else a chance. Okay. Bashment Sasha wants to know, what has happened to Jam Teas? Why has the stock price fallen so far so fast? Anybody know what's going on with Jam Teas? Silence.
I may be conflicted there, so maybe
silence in the room. All right, let me take a non-specific one that doesn't refer to any particular stock. LCJ wants to know, and this has to do with trading. So, all right, LCJ is probably on an app or on JTrader and wants to know, when buying a stock and you select market price instead of limit price, how is that calculated? So what determines market price, limit? What do you do there? Just explain.
So it's whatever will allow the trade to go through immediately. So if you're buying, you're automatically going to get it for whatever the top seller is, or whatever the whatever sell price satisfies the volume that you're trying to buy. And that is already on the market. And if you're selling at market price, it's going to sell at whatever price allows your volume to fully trade. So you don't have control over the price when you set that market price. It's whatever is actually available on the market at that time.
So if
price.
All right. So if a stock, all right, let's give a hypothetical situation, right? If somebody sets a price at, let's say a stock is generally trading around $4 or on the $4 mark, but you always have somebody who, I don't know if out a joke or just out of fun, or for whatever reason, might set their price at $7. And let's say all the regularly traded orders are full. And if you set a market price at, you say, okay, whatever the market is selling at, I'm going to buy at, would you end up with that $7 outlier by chance? How does that work?
Not necessarily, because it still has to satisfy the volume that you're trying to buy. So it is just going to trade down to whatever price allows whatever volume that you're trying to buy to fully cross.
So which one is better, to set your limit or to just take the market price?
It depends what you're trying to do. If you want to control how much you actually get the stock for, then you set a limit that, all right, I don't want to buy the stock for more than $4, so you won't get any surprises. But not everybody also wants to leave their order in the queue. So you might have like a big investor that has a big order. So you just set it at market. You just buy it at whatever you can actually buy it at without actually placing it in the queue to probably scare potential buyers or sellers for that stock. So market can work in that scenario.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can end up with some surprises indeed. You never know what somebody else in the market is thinking. Thank you guys so much for joining us for this full hour. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your knowledge, and thank you for answering many of the questions. And there were many more. We had great engagement. The show, over 400 people watching right now. Viewers, hit the like button if you haven't done so just yet. Whether you're joining us on Facebook or YouTube, let people know that you like this video. Let YouTube know, let the algorithm know that you like this video. And follow all these guys on social media. Give out your handles again. Shanice, what's your handle? Where should people follow you? Where can they find you?
So you can follow me on Twitter. My handle is at TopStrikerShan. It should be beside my name. So I generally just tweet whatever's happening in the market, whatever I like, whatever's on my mind. So you can follow, you can shoot me questions as well. I'm always willing to assist and help out, anybody that might have questions about the market or things they don't understand.
Simon?
Yeah, same. So I mean, you can follow Stocks on the Rocks, which is my financial literacy platform. Look at investments, insurance, saving, everything on YouTube. So Stocks on the Rocks, or at Stocks on the Rocks on Instagram or Twitter, or you can follow me on Twitter at Green Training _
And you have your YouTube channel as well. You also have an event coming up, don't you?
Yes, so we have our live meeting. We meet every last Friday. John Jackson, who's the chairman of JAMT JetCon, and he's also the writer of IC Insider, will be coming to our live event. You can visit our Instagram or Twitter page, Stocks on the Rocks, to get more information on that. And we also have a workshop in Portland, a free workshop in Portland over the weekend, doing some financial literacy things at PAVE out here in Folly Beach, Port Antonio.
Nice. So make a nice weekend out of it and go learn some stuff about stocks and finance. Very nice. All right. So make sure you follow him for that information. And Jillian, where can people find you? I think Jillian is frozen, but her website is financialsensibility.com. Sense spelled with CENTS ability. People, you can find her there, and you can also find her on Twitter at Miss Jilly J. Three of my favorite people to follow on social media. So hit them up whenever you can. Hashtag finance Twitter JA. Guys, hit the like button. We'll come back. We'll take a short break right now and come back with a few of your final comments.
This segment of Taking Stock, The Analysts, was brought to you by Ideal Securities Brokers Limited.
Hey, money makers, you're not an official part of the family until you have your merch. Visit KalilaReynolds.com/store to order your t-shirt and your mask today. Let's get this money. Let's get this money. All right, have you taken the poll yet? Make sure you do so in the community section of my YouTube channel. If you're on a mobile device, you can just scroll and find the poll. By the way, what did you guys think of our new feature last week? Your Business Matters. That was fun, wasn't it? A debate format brought to you by Exim Bank. Sales versus marketing was the topic last week. So we did a little something different. We did a thing. How did you guys like it? Let me know in the comments. I have a few comments here. And I also posted some information in the chat. So I posted the link to the What is a Stock Split video, which I did like 3 years ago. Wow, how time flies. That was among the first batch of Money Mondays JA videos. And somebody was also asking about where they could find that circuit breaker rule. And I posted the link to it. And it is the JSE, what they call their blue book. And it's called actually A Guide to Jamaican Securities Markets, something like that, something similar to that. You can Google it, but I also posted the link to that in the chat that covers all the market rules and so on. It's basically their rule book. So a Guide to Jamaican Securities, the link is there in the live chat. So a few other comments here. So Bro says limit price is the best order. And Alex agreeing with him, saying never buy a stock at market price. Rosewell talking about recession proofing your portfolio. She said do it by learning the industry. Yeah, by the dip. 2020 was rough in the market. Look at some of these companies now. Fosbridge at that time, $3. Now we see the increase. And let me see what else we have here. Natoya says, love this program, love this week's show. The analysts were great. I agree. It was my pleasure to have them, and I look forward to having them again. Hector wants me to do a video on repos. So Producer, take down that idea so that we can look into doing something on repos. What are they? How do they work? And so on. And Dwight says that he will watch the next program after this one. So, year it was, oh, giveaway. I almost forgot. Good thing I checked the chat. All right, let me find the giveaway. Hold on. Let me scroll down. Giveaway. It was a Father's Day giveaway. Where's the question? Where is the question? Where is it? Okay, I found it. Okay, so here is your giveaway question for this week. What did Shanice say was the JSE's circuit breaker rule after the initial trading limit is achieved? What did Shanice, top striker Shan, say was the JSE's circuit breaker rule after the initial trading limit is achieved? And let me give you the rules for winning this prize. So here we go. Like I said, it was Father's Day on Sunday, and we will call the name of the winner soon. So have your fingers ready. You're supposed to, after we call the name of the winner, you're supposed to email admin, ADMIN, admin at KalilaRayMedia.com. So you know how to spell my name, KALILAHREY media.com. Email that address with your contact information. Producer, just put that, run that email address as a banner for me, please. With your contact information and your username, which you used to answer the question, and also attach a screenshot of when you answered the question correctly. And let me see, do we have a winner? We must have a winner by now. Producer, we have a winner? Who answered first? Let me see. Let's see. I think I see a winner. I see a few correct answers. Okay, so my producer says that she started, but I see another one that came in before that. So which one is it? Depends on whose internet is faster. And we always have this issue, which is why we always have this issue with some people, like for some people there's always a conflict to say who put in their answer first, because she's seeing somebody as first, I'm seeing somebody else as first, right? So here what, I'm gonna give you both the prize, because we have quite a few prizes here in storage. So I'm gonna give you both the prize, and one is to Tawada Yahawa, who says 15%, and then Dwight Walker also said 1 hour break reset reference price at 15%. So, all right. So I'm going to give you both the prize, and you guys heard the email address on your screen, and you should also include your contact information and the username that you used to answer the question, and also a screenshot of when you answered the question correctly. The screenshot is important because, like I said, depending on your internet speed, some people say one thing, other people say another thing. And every time we do a giveaway, there's this controversy as to who actually answered first. So Tawada and Dwight, I'm going to give you both a prize. Congratulations on winning that prize. I don't even know what the prize is yet, but we have quite a few things that we can, choose to send to you. And we need your contact info and your delivery info. Hopefully you're in Jamaica, and that way we can easily get that prize to you. So that's our show for this week. Thanks for watching yet another week. It was my pleasure hosting the show for you. I loved this all-Analysts panel. We should do this again sometime. And of course, like I was saying, like the video if you haven't done so just yet. Make sure that you hit that like button. Also visit KalilaReynolds.com/newsletter to make sure that you are on our newsletter mailing list. Somebody was asking in the comments about the credit card document that I've been promising for weeks now. It's coming, all right? There's just some additional information that we needed to verify, because we need to make sure that what we put out there is 100% accurate. We also have an update coming to our broker guide, and I'm also going to be updating my masterclass in a few months. We're working on that. So let me just say too, if you have purchased the masterclass, you will automatically get the update. You don't have to pay again when the updated version comes out. You will still have full access to the site, and you'll automatically get, the new topics that we're going to be covering under that. So go to KalilaReynolds.com/masterclass if you haven't done so yet, and you are interested in learning the basics, the beginner stuff. If you're tuning in for the first time, you kind of dipping your toe in, but you want to know more, you haven't even started investing yet, then the Investing for Beginners Masterclass might be for you. Go to KalilaReynolds.com/masterclass. Reminder again to hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and of course, share with a friend, because investing is the new sexy. See, I try to look nice for you guys, because investing is the new sexy. So let's make it cool to talk about money. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Let's get this money.
Let's get this money.